Is your business protected against the threat of malicious litigation and frivolous lawsuits? Are you sinking company profits into marketing campaigns that do nothing to contribute to the growth of your business? Bottled Business Sense provides practical business perspectives that uniquely emphasize both legal and media marketing strategies to protect and ensure the longevity of your business. And whether you're trying to provide a startup business with some level of stability or an established business with foolproof asset and estate protection, or simply attempting to get a better return for your business marketing dollars, Bill Bernard and Rick Moscoso will expose potential pitfalls to ensure the security and growth of your business, free from unwanted expense and the threat of litigation. You'll learn how to implement marketing and protection tools equal to those used by today's most successful corporations. Let's join Bill and Rick for today's Bottled Business Sense show.
Good morning, everyone. Here we are at the top of the hour for this episode of the Bottled Business Sense show. I'm Rick Moscoso, one of your co-hosts. We have Bill Bernard on the other side, waiting to dive in today's topic, and something that he has some very, very interesting information that we'd like to discuss. But before we get into that, remember, you can always reach out to us and find us on different social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and of course on our website at bottledbusinesssenseshow.com. So we look forward to hearing from you. We look forward to sharing this information with you. And with that, let's bring Bill on and dive right into our topic for today.
Yeah. Hey, Rick. Hey, everybody. I'm glad you're here today. I've got a show that involves a lot of statistics. So I have a sheet of paper here in front of me that I worked up, and then I'm going to refer to. But I think it's a really very, very practical show. I hope people stay with it and really listen in closely because, candidly, everyone especially people who have a business, are going to need, for some reason or another, a consultation with an attorney. And so some years ago, I sent out a form to a number of different clients asking for feedback. What does a client really want from an attorney? What are the most important things that a client needs from a lawyer? And lo and behold, just a few months ago, Martindale Hubbell, it's a famous attorney directory, as well as AVVO, AVVO, and you can go to avvo.com. That's a place to look and explore finding lawyers of your choosing in different fields, which I belong to. They got together and they did a survey, and the survey really kind of paralleled what I did some years ago. So I was really excited to see that. And I was also excited to find out that, in a way, they have updated information that I sought to get from my clients some years back. And so the name of this show is Hiring an Attorney. The Stats Tell the Story. And I want to go over some important stats with you to be able to help you choose a lawyer, to be able to give you an idea as to what is the most prevalent area today that people are looking into. And you'll see as the show goes on how these stats are relevant to everyday life. And even to some stuff that Rick does in terms of how to find a lawyer. So let's start out by reminding everybody that when I developed my business plan, I said, okay, I'm going to be a business lawyer, but I'm going to be a business lawyer of the type that involves 3 different platforms, because I believe all of those 3 platforms really fit into what a true business lawyer is supposed to be. And that business law platform, or sub-platforms of the business law model, was of course developing a business either by way of various number of contracts that you would need to start a business, which would include if you chose an LLC or an S corporation, C corporation, or any other form of business. The second part of that would be employment law, because I did employment law for so many years when I was with my law firm, a partner in my law firm before I went out on my own. And that employment law fits in because once people have a business and they start hiring employees, they need to know employment law, both from an employment and from an employee perspective. And then the third area was estate planning, because estate planning always comes into play when you have the business solidly on the ground, and when things are protected in the manner that you need to protect them, your personal assets, through the setting up of a business entity. Well, then naturally the question then comes, well, how do I pass this on? How do I use an estate plan to not only, maybe if I chose to, further protect myself by going the extreme route of having an irrevocable trust, or just to pass things on and avoid probate by having a revocable trust. So those three sub-platforms became the model I used for a business attorney. Well, lo and behold, when Allo and Martindale-Hubbell did this survey, they found out that 54%, that's over half, 54% of everyone surveyed needed the legal services of a business development attorney and an estate planning attorney. And the way that was broken down was, 34% of the people surveyed wanted an estate planning attorney. That was the highest category. And then 20% wanted a business attorney. So when you combine the business aspect of the estate planning part of it, you've got over half of the people surveyed wanted an attorney in the area of the business model that I set up. A combination of developing business, which I think underlying that would be employment law as well, and of course an estate planning lawyer. So I thought that was very, very pertinent, and I wanted to start off the show by telling you that. Now, when the survey went further, what do you think people wanted from their attorney? So we've got the categories that they're most interested in. But now, when you're going to choose an attorney from that category or categories, whatever you might need, what are you going to look for? And what I'm going to tell you today is what my own survey ended up showing some years back when I did it, and it was right spot on with this one, which to be candid, I'm somewhat proud of that, but I'm more enthusiastic because it confirms even today what most people want, and a lot of it makes sense. So what did people say they wanted? Most people said that it takes too long to get the results back from a lawyer. They wanted an attorney who was going to be speedy, who was going to get them what they wanted done back in a hurry. And that usually ended up being, depending upon the nature of the business, within a 3-month period. Although my survey, because of the type of work that I do, ended up being more like 2 or 3 weeks, so within the month. So between a month and 3 months, somebody who hires an attorney wants something back from that attorney, wants some product, whatever it is that attorney is going to do for them. They want to know that it's not going to linger on for a long, long time. Now, if you have a big civil case, of course, sometimes that involves litigation. Sometimes, most times, you're at the mercy of the courts, and so it ends up being a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, maybe even longer. But I'm talking about more kind of stuff in the area of contracts and the type of legal performance that you might require from an attorney that might lie outside the scope of litigation, because once you add litigation onto whatever you're doing for the client, that's going to add time onto what you're going to try to accomplish, again, because you're at the mercy of the court system. Interestingly enough, here are the things people look for besides wanting a job done in a timely fashion. Price and fees. 60% of the people surveyed were interested in price and fees. Now, that's no surprise, right, Rick? I mean, people are always, no matter what you're going to buy or be interested in, you're going to always want to know what the price is. But here's the kicker. They wanted to know if an attorney could be flexible. In other words, you might have something that an attorney is going to charge by the hour for, but can you have an attorney do something for a flat fee? And of course, one of the more flexible attorneys or type of law practices that you can be flexible in would be estate planning, because you can give a flat fee for a lot of the documentation, like a living trust that you're going to do for the client. There's also some hourly charges that could be that could come into play as well. But most often you have this flexibility in that area. And that has become more prevalent in a lot of other areas of law. So clients want to know, hey, can you be flexible? What are your fees? But more importantly, are they not only reasonable, but are you flexible? Can you offer me a flat fee versus an hourly fee, depending upon what I want to have done? The next, and I picked out 5 of these in addition to the quick turnaround. One was the price and fees that I just explained. The other thing was a free consultation. Do they want a free consultation? You bet your life they do. And of course, I've always offered that. Now, you can't go on for hours and hours and days giving a free consultation, but you can certainly offer a half an hour or an hour consultation. That should get both of you on the same page as to whether they're interested in you and you're interested in taking their case, based on both how you size them up as a sincere individual, not to mention the more important factors, which would involve whether they have an actual viable case according to the law. So that would be another one. The third one, of course, I already talked about, and that's the responsiveness of the attorney. Years of experience would be another one. 48% of the people said years of experience was important to them, and that makes a lot of sense. And the last one, and I'll go over these percentages in a minute, 42% said online reviews and client testimonials are extremely important. Now, whenever somebody talks to me, I tell them, before I send you a retainer agreement, before you say you're interested in my services, go on ABVO, look at my client reviews and look at my peer reviews from other attorneys. Go to the State Bar website, look up what my past has been like. Make sure I'm not being disciplined. Go to my website, look at the reviews. I mean, any attorney or anybody in business, right, Rick? I mean, you do this. Yeah. Anybody who doesn't have a website's got to be, they got to be out, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what drug or they might be on, but you got to, and more importantly, you got to have these sites and you got to have these reviews on there. So client testimonials and online reviews were extremely important, and that shouldn't surprise anybody, should it, Rick?
No, absolutely not. If you're not connected to any of these social platforms, review platforms, then you're going to be the first one that's cut off the list.
Yep. So check this out. People that were surveyed, prices and fees, 60% of the people were interested in prices and fees. Free consultation, 58% were interested in free consultation. Years of experience, 48% were interested in years of experience, and online client reviews and testimonials, 42%. After those categories, including the one I already gave you about responsiveness of the attorney, how quickly the turnaround is, once you got past that, things dropped off dramatically. And here's the interesting part. Attorney awards, what awards the attorney might have gotten. When people research that, just guess what that rated at, Rick. Only 8% of the people surveyed were interested in the accolades and the awards given by the attorney. They were more interested in what other attorneys said about that attorney and what former clients said about that attorney.
Well, that would make sense. I mean, I wouldn't even have thought of awards, nor would I even know what kind of awards that attorneys get.
Well, a lot of attorneys have this stuff posted, all of the accolades that they, and I'll be candid with you, I have a few on my website, but they're down at the bottom of the website, and they're there because I received them. But right staring you smack in the face when you come on the site is our testimonials. So I guess they were not interested, really what this boils down to. They weren't so much interested in the reputation of the attorney as the attorney saw himself. They were more interested in the reputation of the attorney as other clients and as other attorneys viewed that person, which again, as you said, would make sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would have to agree that your personal ego isn't always congruent with how other people see you. So,
well, you'd be surprised what people think. If people sometimes are taken aback by the praises that you say about yourself. I won this case and it was for X amount of dollars, and here's what I did. And some people might take that in and say, okay, that sounds pretty impressive, And in some cases, it might be impressive, but you could win an award for $10 million, and the client could. I can't imagine this off the top of my head, but you could win an award for $10 million, and the client could walk away hating you. Who knows what you did after you won that award? Mm-hmm. So those are important factors, I think, that need to be brought to light. Speed, though, let's go back to the one I initially talked about, the big factor of speed in converting the client's work into actual work product. Attorneys slow to respond were really frowned upon. Slow to respond, too expensive, negative reviews, disciplined by the state bar, or where they appeared to be too busy. All of those things rated from 32% to 54% of negative things that people didn't want to hear. So they corresponded to the positive ratings. For example, if you were too slow to respond, 54% of the people didn't like that. If you were too expensive, 51% of the people surveyed didn't like that. If you were negative reviews online or on your website or somewhere else on the web, 44% of the people didn't like that. And of course, if you were disciplined by the Bar Association, 36% of the people didn't like that. So it was kind of a great kind of a survey that accentuated the positive, but accentuated the negative, and the negative seemed to tie in many ways with the positive. The decision to hire an attorney is another stat. How long did it take somebody to hire an attorney? Can you believe this, Rick? And this would make sense, wouldn't it, because of the onset of social media? They found that the average person took between 3 days and 14 days to contact an attorney, but that it took between 1 and 3 days to actually hire the attorney. Now, how do you figure that? You figure, okay, it might take you a period of time to contact lawyers because you're going to want to maybe contact more than one. So I figure a 2-week period between 1 days to 14 days might be reasonable to do that. And then once that was done, it was a relatively short period of time before a person actually chose the attorney. So overall, most consumers hired an attorney within 2 weeks of the time they felt they needed an attorney. And they combined that. They said, okay, it's about 2 weeks between the time you investigate and then you decide to hire that lawyer. And some people that don't do as much investigation that were found to have hired a lawyer between 1 and 3 days. Why was that? Because they were more concerned about those factors that I pointed out earlier. They concentrated on those factors, and those factors might have been prevalent for certain lawyers, boom, that were hired right away, because other lawyers that they might have looked at didn't have those, didn't have the good reviews, didn't have the good reputation on the state bar. So those things were all important to clients, and I think those are the things that you need to look at when you're going to go out and try to hire a lawyer. And I still say this to you: you're going to, sometime in your life, you're going to need a lawyer. I hope it's for business reasons rather than other reasons.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, go ahead, Rick.
So from a consumer standpoint, let's say you are in need of a lawyer. You've done all this research. You've looked at everything that you pointed out here, and you come down to two. How do you think? I think it's obvious to me, but how do you think people make that final decision? I mean, can you give for example, can you give an example of somebody who chose you instead of, the guy next door who happened to have the same certifications or same qualifications as you, why they chose you?
Sure. You asked the exact question that leads into, is a perfect segue into my next stat, if you will. And that is almost half of the people surveyed said once they found this criteria that was important to them, they made a phone call. They didn't care about meeting the attorney in person as much as hearing the attorney's voice and getting to know him or her over the phone and hearing what that attorney says. And every time that you just said that, how do I get clients? They'll call me, and basically it's your demeanor and what you offer them and how sincere you are over the phone. And believe me, people can hear that. I can't tell you. I'll give you a real quick example. I needed a plumber for a reason the other day. Plumber calls me up. I have a talk with him. I knew right away he was going to be one of my finalists. Another guy calls me up, and every time I try to get a question in, he interrupts me and he tells me what the situation is before I can even give him the facts surrounding my situation. That guy was wiped off the list right there. And so you conduct yourself like a professional, keeping these statistics that people are interested in mind, making sure that when you say you're going to do what you're going to do, you better follow through. And that's how you do it. And people, almost half of the people, 46%, preferred a phone call over an in-person meeting, over an email, or even contacting somebody via their website. So the phone call, and of course, they went into saying even Skyping, Rick, today. Or doing something on Zoom or the other platforms that you're allowed to see videos on. Those are just as important nowadays than seeing people in person. And it never used to be that way until the onset of the web, of course.
Yeah. Well, I think as a last step in the way I make decisions in kind of sizing up people is I go through the same steps. And then I think the final connector to me is, even if it's virtually like what we're doing right here in two different locations, I get a feel for their demeanor. I get a feel for their authenticity, their
Sure.
through their conversation style to really get a heartfelt feeling. Is this somebody I can really trust? And if I connect with them, like, we connect with each other here on the show, then yeah, I mean, it's very likely that I'll choose them.
Yep. Now, interestingly enough, despite all of the stats I've pointed out, 77% of the people surveyed contacted at least 3 lawyers before they made their decision. So, I think that's prudent. I don't have any problem with that because there are a lot of smart lawyers out there, and you're not the only one. Don't assume you're the only one that are providing these opportunities, these stats that people want to know about, the good reviews, the quick turnaround time, the flexibility in pricing. There may be quite a few other lawyers that have finally caught on and now are doing that. So 77% of the people surveyed actually contacted between 1 and 3 lawyers when they were looking for their attorney. And I want to kind of gear down on the show by bringing this into consideration, Rick, which really, again, falls a lot into what you do. 47%, of the people surveyed use the following resources to find an attorney. Online directories like AVVO, and online review sites where attorneys go or are reviewed, like the State Bar. So that was 47% of the people that looked for attorneys are using that kind of tool, followed up by 43%, which used, of course, Google, Googling attorneys. 43% got referrals from family and friends. And 36% to 40% just went to the attorney's website initially. So the big 4 would be online review sites and online directories, Google, a referral from a family or friend, and then an attorney's actual website. I would submit to you that once you get a referral from a friend, you then go to these other sites to check out this lawyer. Just don't, you can certainly call the attorney, but I would still, before I even called the attorney that was referred to me by a family member or friend, I would go check out all these other things that we've been talking about online, and then give the attorney a call. Because somebody could give a rave review about a lawyer, and you could go to their website and see about 5 or 6 really negative reviews, maybe in the area that you want to hire the attorney for. And, that's not gonna bode well if you just go right from the referral source and say, I'm going to hire this lawyer without checking them out yourself. So that's an important topic. Finally, I want to end the show by talking about the fact that the majority of consumers who paid for legal representation once they got their lawyer was between $500 and $5,000. So most people who hire a lawyer, and this is at the end of 2019, most people who hire a lawyer generally end up paying between $500 and $5,000 for the services of the attorney. And again, this leaves out any potential long-term litigation, because if you have a plaintiff's case in civil court, you're probably going to maybe take it on a contingency basis. If you have an hourly case, it's going to be a lot more than $5,000 before it's ended. So we're talking about contractual stuff. And of course, what does that bring us into? The exact area I've been talking about, business law, which involves estate planning, employment law, and the development of a business entity. All of those things fit exactly within this high category of between $500 and $5,000. So I'm hoping, Rick, that people will take these key takeaways from this show. 1, consumers are price sensitive. 2, response time of an attorney is very, very critical. 3, client reviews provide important information for prospective clients. And number 4, consumers will now prefer to contact you and get a lot of information from you by following up these things with a mere phone call rather than an in-person consultation. Those are the things I hope people take away from the show, and understand the stats that we've talked about, listen to the show, understand them in detail before they go out and hire a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, these are very, very good considerations, and I think most sensible people out there would think along the same lines. I know that's why Bill concentrates on these different things as he conducts his business in whatever area of law that you may engage with him. You've heard many episodes on this show talking about business law, about estate planning, about emphasizing your business. And there are a ton of resources on the bottledbusinesssense.com website. So you can always go back and look at our library and learn from Bill's knowledge base, and get familiar with how he delivers this information, because it's in one of your past lives, you were a professor of law and you taught students. And, Bill has that knack for teaching these very complex concepts in a very simple way. And that's why we do what we do here on this show. We try and dummy it down a little bit so the common person, everyone, can kind of understand the complexities of what Bill does on a daily basis. So,
right. Well said. Well said. I mean, I thought, we provide all of these topics to people. And I think it's important for them to understand, okay, some or a lot of these topics are important to me, but, this guy is not the only attorney around. There are other attorneys everywhere, and they're in different cities and different states all over the country. How do I choose one? Mm-hmm. And I thought that it would be good to just bring this practical information that just happened to coincide almost perfectly with my own review some years back, which was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And it's still true today. And even more so, because of the onset of the internet. So, and social media. So I hope you all take advantage of this, and I hope you're able to use it in your everyday life when you go out and choose a lawyer. And if you have a business, I'd suggest having one on board. Don't wait for something to happen before you hire the lawyer. It may get much more expensive that way because of the things that have happened before you come and ask an attorney's advice. Okay?
Right. Well, folks, I hope this has been very beneficial to you. And if you fall into one of these categories where you are evaluating attorneys, they don't necessarily have to be in your hometown. Bill does a lot of his business here remotely, and as he's already said. And so reach out to Bill for consideration. I'm sure he'd be happy to strike up a discussion with you. A lot of people will reach out to us via our social media contacts on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Avo, and also on the website. But heed some of Bill's advice. If you really want to strike up a conversation, really want to get to know Bill, if that's what you need as an attorney in one of his expertise areas, then a phone call, not an email, but a phone call, or will certainly do you great justice in helping you choose the right one.
And I'll tell you where I would prefer an email, under what situation I would prefer an email. And you can go on my website, wfblegalconsulting.com, or PYE365.com. That's protectyourestate365.com. And you can email me from there. I would prefer emails in the situation where sometimes people, rather than going to our website, Bottle Business Sense Show, they will go to the YouTube site. Rather than asking questions on the YouTube site, just email me. Just email me. Go to one of my websites, email me, and I'm happy to respond to direct emails that I get from those sites. Okay? So I hope that clarifies some things for people as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, great. All right. Great episode, Bill. Thanks again, viewers, for hanging out with us today. I hope you found this useful knowledge for you. And I know it helps reinforce why I do this with Bill and why he is my business attorney. And so I hope you feel the same after you engage with Bill, if that's something that you need. So reach out to Bill if you have any questions. And with that, we'll sign off and see you on the next episode of the Bottle Business Sense Show.
Take care, everybody.